Okay, so very good morning to you all, the very nice students with the smiling faces and energetic as well as, well, what I should say, that very eagerly awaited faces are here. I can see before myself. First of all, I'd like to thank Professor Devashish Pal, who is the principal of this college, and also Professor Vishwarup Mukherjee, the head of the Department of Chemistry, for inviting me to this seminar of this college. As I understand, this is an annual seminar of your college. Well, I was when first contacted by Dr. Reena Mondol, Reena I should call you, that I was rather surprised, and I was very busy in some other work. So I told her, okay, I'll contact you as she got me. And initially I was hesitant because of so much of my workload, that how much I'll be able to come over here and have some discussion with you about the chemistry and all those things. And more importantly, this college has got one or two other teachers who happen to be my students. For example, Ratna, who was just present here, she was, I took their classes from the very first year, very first classes in Jadavpur University. Well, Reena used to work in the same laboratory as I used to work. Then Shondeep is also here, that she was a student, he was also a student. So it's very fine to see that the students of Jadavpur University, whom I had the opportunity to teach, that they are placed in a very, very good position, which gives me immense pleasure and pride as well, as a teacher, for being a teacher of them. Regarding the introduction, that when Madam Professor Chandana Giri contacted me, I told her that I can introduce myself, of which the initial footings have been done, Reena by already. But just to stay briefly about myself, that I graduated from Presidency College, Calcutta University after completion of my high school examination. Then I did my postgraduate studies in Rajabajar Science College, where, well, I could stand at the top anyway. Then I worked with Professor Mrs. Ashima Chatterjee. Then she was the Hoira Professor of Chemistry, head of the department. Then she was a syndicate member, and prior to that, at that time, prior to that, she was the Dean Faculty of Science as well. So I had the opportunity to work with Professor Mrs. Chatterjee, and then I gradually came to learn about the research. Actually, my all these training first originated from Presidency College. In fact, I tell everybody, had I not been in Presidency College, if my mother did not allow me to read in Presidency College, then it was in a very, very great turmoil. I passed in 1970 high school examination. The West Bengal was flooded with lot of political problems and all those things. Our college was closed for about 1 year, but I'm thankful to my parents that I was given the opportunity. So that was the first eye-opening in the college life, in our undergraduate life. The second thing came when I came and our colleagues, my lab mates, when we came in contact with Professor Mrs. Ashima Chatterjee. Usually she was addressed in the university as master. Nobody used to call her as Mrs. Chatterjee or Ashima Di, like that way. Everybody used to address her as master, so it was a kind of a thing which we used to also address her like that way. The idea was that she first imparted upon us and injected within ourselves that you will have to devise your own problem. You'll have to go to the library or laboratory, you go in the laboratory, if any problem, well, you discuss with me, but you will have to devise yourself, your own problem. So that was the first training which we used to get, that to build a person so that you can become stand-up, not only in academics and others. For example, that she used to say to our senior didis and our batchmates, our friends, and particularly the ladies, that you don't think that your PhD thesis is just as an ornament. It's not an ornament of that you can keep it in your almirah or somewhere else, and you can show it, this is my PhD thesis. She used to always tell us, remember, it is a platform in your life, just a platform upon which you can stand. So this was the training which we used to get. More importantly, কোনো কিছু দরকার হলে হয়তো উনি বলতেন যে আচ্ছা এটা টাইপ করা, আমরা কেউ বললাম টাইপ জানি না, বলে টাইপ জানো না তো কি হয়েছে, ওই তো কুমুদবাবু টাইপিস্ট ছিলেন, উনি 5টা 5:30 6টায় বেরোতেন, তারপরে টাইপ রাইটার আছে নিচে 1 আঙুল দিয়ে দিয়ে টাইপ করুন। এবং মানে on my part খুব interesting to say that when she asked me to write my first paper, so I didn't know what to write, how to write a paper. Okay, so I jotted down something very thing. I thought that it is a very nice thing that I should go to my teacher and she will be very happy to see that I have done so much of works and she will just like me like anything. So it was a bunch of paper like that way, and when I entered, I was entering in a room, she looked at me and asked, Somnath, ota ki? পেপারটা বলেছিলেন লিখে এনেছি। পেপার ওটা তো থিসিসের একটা চ্যাপ্টার নিয়ে এসেছো লিখে। So you understand, that was my first realization that a paper does not mean such a bunch of paper, but it has to be something very concise. So I talked with some of my seniors, Shibuda, he has retired, and it was compressed to a much lower number of pages. Initially maybe it was around 18 pages or something like that, so it was compressed to something like that, 10 pages or so in writing, that Shibuda did it. And then I got the entry, and I had the good luck that she agreed to go through those 10 pages, 8 or 10 pages, and she just scrapped one another line, and finally it turned out to be only 3 to 4 pages. So that was the way we first learned. Okay. Then afterwards, of course, I was in a college and in Jadavpur University, and then I was abroad in Switzerland. In fact, in 2017, a Nobel Prize was awarded from University de Chimie, Lausanne. It is in that book. One of your students, I see, the last page has written a Nobel Prize in Chemistry in 2017. It was from the University de Chimie, University of Organic Chemie, Lausanne, where I had the opportunity to work with a person whose name was Professor Manfred Schlosser. He was then the director, and he was a direct student of George Wittig, who had won the Nobel Prize. And so maybe I'll show you one such slide, that what is known that the Wittig reaction has been modified time to time, and it is one of the excellent work that Schlosser's modification of Wittig reaction is there. That the essential problem about the Wittig reaction is that about the E and Z selectivity, cis and trans. Usually the trans product or the E product is a preponderant product in a Wittig reaction, but the Schlosser's modifications led to the development of procedure or the methodologies and the reaction conditions, so that one can get a much larger amount of Z selectivity is there. So it is a kind of a thing. Anyway, I had the opportunity to work with that gentleman, and frankly speaking, that it would have been again impossible to work with Professor Manfred Schlosser had I not worked with Professor Mrs. Oshima Chatterjee. Okay, you understand what I mean? Because Professor Mrs. Chatterjee was so particular in everything else, and Professor Schlosser maybe 100 times or more. So one of my seniors who was in IIT Kharagpur, Professor Torun Sarkar, who has retired, when I came back from Switzerland, Torun asked me, Somnath, তুই কি করে স্লসারের ল্যাবে কাজ করলি? ওর ল্যাবে তো কেউ কাজ করতে পারে না। বলে প্রবাবলি তুই মিসেস চ্যাটার্জির কাছে কাজ করেছিলি বলে ইউ হ্যাড দ্য ট্রেনিং অ্যান্ড ইউ কুড ওয়ার্ক উইথ হিম। So the thing is that if you, Professor Schlosser, if he asks you to attend at 3 o'clock in his office at 3 p.m., if you push the bell at 1 minute past 3 o'clock, then he will refuse. And if you click the bell at 2:59 p.m., he will not open the door. So this was such a thing, you know. So we had to always keep our watch tuned with the Professor Schlosser's watch, which is showing at the outside. So see, this is the kind of thing. Well, it may be something excessive, no doubt, but what I want to mean, the training and punctuality, that eventually when you grow up, we really understand about these things. Okay? So this is the way actually I got it, and then I worked in Jadavpur University for more than 32 years, from 1982. Presently I am in North Bengal University. It is almost 4 years, whereby during these 4 years I have forgotten chemistry. Although initially I took classes in North Bengal University for the first 3 years. This year I could not take the classes in postgraduate classes regularly. Tried to do some research work in Jadavpur University with my fellow students who are there. maybe this is, right now I'm standing before you. Any more introduction you need on my part? Okay. So I think I have satisfied a little bit about your desire. So coming to this point, now if we come back to this, since it is a pointed data, since it is a Professor Mrs. Ashima Chatterjee is the phenomenal scientist. Actually, you probably not know that she is the only person I know that who traveled. She was, of course, to me she is always, that she covered the entire globe from North Pole to South Pole twice, which is impossible for a person in his lifetime. How many of us can go to abroad? Even if we go to abroad, we can go and visit, say, United States of America or Japan or say Switzerland or France, like that way. She traveled twice, the entire from North Pole to South Pole, and she was so much well acquainted that I give you one or two examples. That when Professor Linus Pauling, when Mrs. Chatterjee's birth centenary celebration was celebrated, the 75th birth centenary celebration, Professor Pauling wrote individual letter and congratulations to her by her own hand, by his own hand, and so she was very connected. And I remember then we had this student in science college doing research work. A professor, I just forgot the name, it was quite about say 20 years or something more, maybe 25 years ago. That person came from probably Czechoslovakia or Slovakia, something like that, okay. And when Master was introducing himself, that particular gentleman, about his name and background and everything else, and after the introduction was over, that gentleman, that professor told that I have come to India and visited many places, and not only to India and also other countries, but for the first time I see that Mrs. Chatterjee has pronounced my name correctly. You understand? So, such a well-versed and well-acquainted, and she was really a phenomenal scientist, no doubt, that one might call her as an enigma as well. So, anyway, so to pay tribute and respect, I definitely thank the college authorities, and I'm extremely happy to learn that you have decided to make a seminar on to pay tribute to Professor Mrs. Chatterjee. Okay? So this is just a flyer I have placed before you. This was, I do not know how many of you are there, maybe some of you are put it there. Her birthday was on 23rd September. She was born, and this in 1917, so that this 2017 there was 100-year celebration, and you must be knowing that on that day the Google actually made the page dedicated to Professor Mrs. Ashima Chatterjee. I do not know how much of you have seen it, because if you open the Google page you will see many things, but the entire day Google put up in their website that when you open the Google, Professor Mrs. Ashima Chatterjee and all things were there. So that is a great thing, you know. So anyway, so this was a flyer that was published on that day and distributed to the audience. So I thought that I should show you something about this thing. So you can see that you can see that this is a photograph of Professor Mrs. Ashima Chatterjee, which is shown here, and this is the background about herself. She was born on September 23rd, 1970, and then she graduated with honours from Scottish Church College in 1936, from Calcutta University in 1938 with MSc as Organic Special Paper. And then she worked with a famous natural product chemist in Calcutta University, Professor Prafulla Kumar Bose, one of the pioneer natural product chemists in India. Now that started the career rolled on. First you see, she got the Nagarjuna Prize in 1940 and gold medal, French Royal Studentship, gradually, and she is the first Indian lady. She was the first Indian lady to obtain a DSc degree of any Indian university. That was in 1944. Remember, our country, we got the independence in 1947. Okay, 1944, she was the first Indian lady of any Indian university to get the first DSc degree. Okay, so that is the highest degree in the university. Before that, nobody, no Indian lady, no lady from Calcutta University to get it. Okay, thank you.
Hopefully it will work.
So this is the most important thing, and this is written here. Then she joined Lady Dragon College, and then she was appointed as honorary lecturer in the Department of Chemistry in 1944. Then she was married to Dr. Baragananda Chatterjee. Then Professor Chatterjee was a professor in Shibpur Engineering College. Now this is IIEST, and she was a physical chemist. And then she left for abroad in 1947. Where is the change here?
পরে এটা এইটার দিলে আমাকে দেনা
Oh, right click. So actually then her only daughter, Professor Mrs. Julie Banerjee, was born, and then when Master left for Switzerland, then Julie was only 11-month-old baby, and she has, when we used to talk with her, that she carried Julie on a sack, and then it was not an air travel. She went by ship, and accompanied by what is shown here. This is with some governance. He worked with Nobel laureate Professor Paul Carter in the University of Zurich, Switzerland, that is shown here, on biologically active indole alkaloids. That was her special interest. Actually, she worked mainly on plant products. That is, the different plants what we see. She actually devoted her life in studying the chemical principles of those plants. For example, you know that we take some drugs for some diseases. Okay, that may be some plant origin. Her main effort was to identify the chemical component that is responsible for the exhibiting the drug behavior. Why it is drug and why it is active principle. In other words, so. Then significant contribution to chemistry of different classes. This is all written over here. She created a school of natural products. Actually, that is a thing that is being told about.
আমাকে দেন
একটা তুমি এরকম ভাবে কাজ করা যায় না। অ্যাকচুয়ালি এটা কম্পিউটার থাকলে সুবিধা হয়। স্ক্রিন করে এটা কিরকম ভাবে সিস্টেম কিছু বোঝা যাচ্ছে না। এরপর তো লেকচার দেওয়া মুশকিল হবে।
জাস্ট এটা টাচ করলে পরে স্ক্রিনে চলে আসবে। স্ক্রিন টাচ করলেও পরে স্ক্রিনে আসবে।
এটা টাচ করলে আসবে?
হ্যাঁ।
ঠিক আছে, ফাইন। তাহলে কিন্তু ব্যাক হয়।
তিনটে ছিল তো।
পরেরটা আসছে না?
হ্যাঁ, পরেরটা আসছে। জাস্ট ওখানে
So this was actually what you can see. She was the editor of the 6-volume series of Treatise of Indian Medicinal Plants published by CSIR. More importantly, that the receipt of the award, that she was the first elected General President of Indian Science Congress, as has been told by Professor Pal, the principal of the college in 1975. Prior to that, she was the first lady to obtain the Bhatnagar Award in 1961. Before that, no lady. Till date in chemistry, 4 ladies have been awarded the Bhatnagar Prize. The 3 other I am not mentioning the name. Anyway, the first award was to Professor Mrs. Chatterjee in 1961. The Bhatnagar Awardee was introduced from 1960, if I remember correctly. So she was the first recipient. Then the first woman scientist, actually. About her DSc, what I can say, I do not know. Nowadays, those things are not obtained. That when we were in school days, we had some toys. Maybe we are reading in 5-6 classes, 5-6 or so. That was a kind of toy. That was a general knowledge question type, that there is a question. And you put a clip connected by a wire on some question, and put the other clip on the other side, on the answer clip. If it correctly works, then a lamp will light. লাইটলি একটা আলো জ্বলে উঠবে, সেটাকে বলা হতো আমাদের সময়টা দোকানে বিক্রি হতো জ্ঞানের আলো বলে বিক্রি হতো আর কি। আমি জানি না এখন সেগুলো পাওয়া যায় কিনা। তার মধ্যে আমরা তখন স্কুলে ওই অত ছোট, তখন থেকে ওইখানে একটা প্রশ্ন ছিল যে যেমন ভারতের প্রথম কবে হকিতে ভারত অলিম্পিক জিতেছে, তার একটা প্রশ্নের উত্তর। আচ্ছা, ভারতের প্রথম কোন ক্রিকেটার এইটা পেয়েছে ইত্যাদি। তার মধ্যে একটা প্রশ্ন ছিল, বা ভারত কবে স্বাধীনতা অর্জন করেছে, তার মধ্যে একটা প্রশ্ন ছিল যে ভারতবর্ষের প্রথম কোন মহিলা বৈজ্ঞানিক বিএসসি ডিগ্রি পেয়েছিলেন। তাতে অনেকগুলো মহিলা এরকম ছিল। ওইখানে অসীমা চ্যাটার্জি ওইটা দিলে আলোটা জ্বলে উঠত। সুতরাং মানে দ্যাট ওয়াজ সামথিং গ্রেট, দ্যাট উই আর স্টুডেন্টদের স্কুলে পড়ছি 4, 5, 6 এই সময় পড়ছি, দ্যাট ইজ সামথিং কোয়াইট ফ্যাসিনেটিং, at least to myself it was like that. Anyway, then she was awarded the Padma Bhushan, then is a C.V. Raman award, etc. And she was also a nominated member of Rajya Sabha for 2 times, from 82 to 84, in the ministry of then the Honorable Prime Minister was Rajiv Gandhi, and then from 1984 to 1990 as a scientist academician. Apart from that, she was a great disciple of Swami Vivekananda and was closely associated with Ramakrishna Mission, Belur. Particularly, she was very, very close, and actually she adored Bharat Maharaj of Swami Abhayanandaji Maharaj, and then Swami Ramanathananji Maharaj, very closely. And then we the students of Professor Mr. Ashima Chatterjee, then in 2015, we decided to make a Professor Ashima Chatterjee Foundation. The members are here. And then after that, there was an endowment fund that has been generated in the name of Professor Ashima Chatterjee as a foundation, and regularly a series of lectures from 2015 goes on by eminent scientists. It was by Dr. Ganesh Pandey. It was in the lecture in the Ramakrishna Mission Vivekananda in Golpar. The lectures are held. So this is a thing briefly to say about, but these 3 pages or 2 pages doesn't speak about Mrs. Chatterjee. Mrs. Chatterjee simply was Mrs. Chatterjee, and we still do not say was, we all say she is, because we feel that a scientist is only born, but a scientist never dies. So the thing is that to ourselves, with the students and others, we never feel master is no longer with us. So we always feel, maybe if we enter in the science college, I personally feel others, well, master will be coming probably say, and how are you, Somnath ki korcho, ba onno ki korcho, ittadi. Anyway, so this is I consider personally, among many of my colleagues consider Mrs. Chatterjee as my another mother to myself. So this much I can say, and this is particularly her contribution, what your principal was saying, some contribution to medicines. There is Indian, that is called Research in Indian Institute of Research in Ayurveda, and she was the director of that thing. She developed 2 drugs, that is Ayush 56 and Ayush 64, anti-malarial drugs, and another one is anti-epilepsy drug, right, thank you, anti-epilepsy drug, Ayush 56 and Ayush 54, and several drugs have been developed from that. Is actually a central government institute. The whole work is on not only natural products, that is a deliverable part. Actually the most important part of the research is that you can do some research in your laboratory, you can generate some publication on your tabletop, but the most important part is the deliverables of that work. That was the deliverables of Mrs. Chatterjee's work, that not only to isolate a plant product and characterize this compound, that this is an alkaloid, or this is a coumarin, or this is a flavone, whatever it may be, but the deliverables is most important, which Mrs. Chatterjee did in her life. That is a very, very great thing, which seldom very persons can do, except say, for example, Professor Acharya Prafulla Chandra. What he did, that was deliverables, that developing, going to the industry. And this is another example I tell you. And apart from that, there are some other examples that her works have been cited, research works have been cited in textbook like Finner Volume 2, several works. So this is a great achievement on the part of a teacher and the researcher, and that if your work may be published in a journal, it may be cited in many journals. But when it comes to the textbook level, like Finner's textbook, where a first year student or second year student is reading, and they are looking that this is a work with a reference that Mrs. Chatterjee et al. With reference, Mrs. Ashima Chatterjee, so that is something, a great thing, I think. That is I personally feel that is the best publication, that when it comes to the textbook level. So, in other words, that it is impossible to describe Mrs. Chatterjee to ourselves and to myself. We just call her as master and nothing more than that. So this is just a brief tribute and introduction and saying about. Should I say something more about her? Okay, thank you very much. So this is a very briefly I told you. So that is. And she used to advise in many ways and many things. Okay, anyway, so let's go to the actual the thing what I would like to talk before you about some academics. What we can even keyboard operate code. That is a very good open slide should be. No, the previous one. Okay. So this is a topic when Reena contacted with me that to give a talk on something academics. I am not sure that what I should tell before you, because you really belong to undergraduate classes. It is not a research level seminar that were postgraduate or PhD students and even undergraduate students. So after a long thought, I thought that I should tell something about the organic chemical reactions which we have read in our textbook chemistry in your classes, which you appear in your examination, in your college and Calcutta University examinations, and that how it has been transformed or changed in modern day scenario. So I therefore choose the topic as organic reactions in modern perspective, and this I pay as a worship to my teacher, because a teacher can be worshipped only by, I think, just by some academic contribution or academic tribute by a student to a teacher, apart from some floral tribute which we have just done. So that's why I have this I am placing before you, that this is an academic worship on my part for my respected teacher, Professor Mr. Ashima Chatterjee. Simply I put DSCFNA, not the other things, or a professional. Okay. So this was the first one which I would like to say. Now the next one, well, this is one example I would like to put before you. That there are some orbitals or something like shown here. That the extreme left one, what you can see, this is a classical representation of the SN2 reaction. This we have read from your school days, and even also you read here. That what we know that in SN2 reaction there is always a backside attack. That is, say Rx is a group, Y is a nucleophile coming from the backside, and X is going off with an inversion of stereochemistry here. And that is the classical we explain in terms of arrows. Actually, organic chemists are very bold, including myself, because we don't bother about the electron energies or anything else. That in the border, in the bold in the sense, an Rx bond, you put an arrow, curly arrow. Y minus, you put another arrow from backside. But without really understanding what amount of energy is transferred and whether it is energetically permittable or not. And the teachers become very happy if he or she finds a student is writing very good structure with very nice curly looking arrows and mechanistically explained, and well, he or she is a very good student, and I must give 5 out of 5 to him or her. That is the general feelings, you know, that if I see a very good answer script, but actually I personally feel I do not know how much energy transfers are there, Neither the teacher nor the students knows. Only the thing is that they're putting some arrows, okay. But the problem is that there is a deep intricacies behind it. The arrows are simple representative. Actually, all reactions are controlled by the orbitals. Clear? That is, the orbitals, you know that orbits are fixed regions in a place, like K, L, M, and shell. But orbitals are a region in a space by definition, where the probability of electron is expected to be 95%. 5% is elsewhere. That is the most probable region. That is the definition of orbital. The concept of orbital came after the introduction of the, because initially it was a Rutherford model, then Bohr model, but the concept of orbital came after the introduction of this your de Broglie's wave particle dualism. So that this orbital concept is always there. So actually when a reaction takes place, you will have to have a proper orbital overlapping or interaction, otherwise it cannot go on. Just like that you are wearing this shirt, I am wearing this coat, it has to fit myself, otherwise it cannot fit to my body, and this will be a mismatching like that way. So that it is a situation that when it is shown that for a SN2 reaction, it is usually indicated by the LUMO and HOMO rings. This is a completely filled orbital of a nucleophile, that is the highest orbital field, okay. And this is, on this case, is the lowest unfilled orbital, that is, this is the highest filled orbital, this is the lowest unfilled orbital. So normally you call it as a highest occupied molecular orbital or HOMO. The other one is the lowest unoccupied molecular orbital or LUMO. So the idea is that it is a carbon, and say this is a halide, chlorine or X. This was the original bond. This bond is breaking, you know. You are making a nucleophile because that side is, that's the inversion of configuration taking place, and you can see it is the orbital shape and the phase has to match. That means a blank one has to match with a blank one. A green colored or a green colored or any other filled one has to be related. Otherwise the reaction will not take place. What if you can take, if this nucleophile would have come from this side, this is coming from that side. Suppose it is in cup. It is back for you. That is such a huge problem. কম্পিউটার আমি এই জায়গায় আমি নিজের কম্পিউটারটা নিয়ে আসতে পারতাম এটা একটা কম্পিউটার থাকলে জাস্ট এখানে ক্লিক করলেই হয়ে যেত আই উড হ্যাভ ইজিলি পুট অন মাই ওন কম্পিউটার would have loaded the
স্যার প্রবলেম হচ্ছে ওটা টাচ স্ক্রিন ওটা টাচ করলেই হবে ওটা টাচ না করলে
I am not used to this thing. It is in your college, you know it, but usually when the seminars are given, a computer is given where either the person operates or somebody else helps you to operate. So by the touch of a computer screen, maybe I'll have to be acclimatized after some time, but this actually breaks the discussion that everybody loses the attention anyway. So this is another one. What you can see that this is again that carbon and chlorine bond is breaking. Now supposing if the nucleophile tries to come from the front side, not from the back side, like it is shown here, what will happen? This will show a green bonding interaction will occur here, but at the same time you can see this is a green and a blank white. There is an interaction between these two, an antibonding interaction. Computer to achieve research computer where I can set my this one. So I think I should take a break for 10 or 15 minutes. You say the same. It is impossible on my part to give a lecture like this one. I don't know what the systems are. I was told that protection is available, but I am not accustomed and it is very difficult. If you can bring a computer,
just a few minutes.
And then I will give the lecture, otherwise it is not possible. Whatever you do, just allow, just make some arrangement through which I can go because it is a touch screen. It is a touch screen, so when I talk, the finger might touch and the screen changes.
So can you just enter, right?
Yes. Just enter and then just keep.
No, it will work. Yeah. Okay, fine.
Yeah.
Okay, just
It will work. Sorry.
Actually, problem is that if you touch the board, then it will.
Okay, just leave it. I understand. Just you don't have to worry. Sorry, please take your seat. So what I was telling you that this is leads to an antibonding interaction, which therefore gives us the idea that why we put the arrows like the front side and the back side, because the concept is that when a bond has to be formed, the orbitals has to match, because you know a covalent bond formation takes place by the head-on overlapping of two hybridized orbital. There is a sigma bond which is formed. The pi bond is formed by the parallel overlapping, so that if these two orbitals cannot make a head-on overlapping, there will be no such bonding. And so if it comes like this way, then it is a concept of this antibonding comes. So that is the reason this is called the frontier orbital for SN2 reaction. This has come very about few years ago. When you are student, these concepts are not there. Then if we come to the substitution electrophilic bimolecular reaction, then you can see this is a carbon metal bond which is homo, and electrophile which is electron deficient, it is coming from the back side. You can have a bonding for inversion. If it now comes from the front side even, then there is also a bonding interaction. There is no antibonding interaction. The net result is that therefore for an electrophilic substitution, clear, on a carbon atom bearing a negative charge can lead both to inversion and retention of configuration. Clear? But a nucleophilic substitution on a carbon atom, clear, bearing a positive charge or a developing positive charge can always lead to inversion of configuration. Clear? So the example is that this is a compound, an atomic non-bonding system. There is a carbon metal bond. If you add bromine to this thing, see this is in the extra position. The bromine is coming from the extra position. So this is an inversion of configuration. But if you use other electrophile like chlorine type format, it is taking the position of lithium, that is a retention of configuration. So this is a work that was published in 1967. So this shows this application of this orbital concept here. So if we come to the next one, like this way, then this is a classical molecular rearrangement what we have read. That Pinnacle rearrangement, Hoffman rearrangement, this we have read, Beckman rearrangement. One important thing is that if you look for any kind of rearrangement, the rearranging group always makes a three-membered group, because it is a concerted pathway of reaction mechanism that a group leaves the adjacent group migrates. This is called as a one-to shift, or what we call as a neighboring group participation reaction. Clear? Again, you can see the first step of this reaction, when X is going out, R1 is coming, it is like a backside attack. Clear? It's coming from the opposite side, so it is like a SN2 reaction. As we have just seen, an SN2 reaction, first step will be always an inversion of configuration. So here the inversion of the configuration will occur. First step. And afterwards, if it is a realignment, we get a different product. If it is a different product, then we call neighboring group participation reaction. So in any case, after this realignment, this is the end product which we get. How to picturize this thing in terms of this MO? That is a modern concept what we have. This is like an NGP type of reaction. As we have told, this is an SN2 reaction, this is an inversion. But for an NGP reaction, this is an intramolecular nucleophile making a backside attack with the living group X. Sorry, with the living group X. So in this case again an inversion occurs. There is a first step. ঠিক আছে, যেটা আগেরটা দেখালাম যে R1 গ্রুপটা চলে আসছে, একটা ইনভার্সন হয়ে যাচ্ছে, এনজিপিতেও তাহলে ফার্স্ট স্টেপটা ইনভার্সন হয়ে গেল। কিন্তু যেমন SN2 reaction doesn't make a retention, there is antibonding interaction. Similarly, if the first step in NGP reaction would have been a retention, then there would have been an antibonding interaction. So that is the thumb rule. What we read in terms of arrows in our books, whether go to Finner, whether go to Morrison Boyd, whether go to Peter Sykes or March, anyway you see, always we will see that NGP reaction occurs in two stages. First is an inversion step, first step. Second step is also an inversion. But why the inversion? The question. This is the answer lies in the frontier molecular orbital theory, and that is the reason what I have said, that these organic reactions which we have read, you are reading, that how we can see in the modern perspectives that in terms of this concept, actual concept, not in terms of arrows or not in terms of this one. So that this is the example I give. Then this says like a sigma particle, this is a pinnacle rearrangement. Say this is the R1 group migrating to this point, the three-membered ring. This is an aromatic ring participation, like that it goes on. All same concept. Afterwards, I have taken some of the things for you to learn and to discuss with you. That the Nobel Prize, I am very happy to see that a student has written a topic on Nobel Prize in Chemistry in 2007, although I could not go through it. I am also equally happy to see a student has written one page that a dinonphenol real element. That's quite good to see that we are reading dinonphenol real element in Fina's book. Probably a girl student, I don't remember exactly the name, I just got a simple letter. That was very good anyway. Now this is a very interesting one, the Nobel Prize in Organic Chemistry. You can see the Nobel Prize was first launched in 1901. Okay. And particularly the Nobel Prize have been awarded more achievements for the carbon-based substances which have been otherwise known as organic chemistry. And you can see the growth of organic chemistry from there on. Okay, from 1901, how the story up to 2017 have been unfolded in the area or realm of organic chemistry. Organic chemistry, the Nobel Prizes have been grouped loosely according to several fields. For example, the first chemistry of natural products. You can see the first Nobel Prize in chemistry was 1902. 1901 Nobel Prize. Emil Fischer got the Nobel Prize in 1902. Then it is again 1905. This is called Bayer. That what we Adolf von Bayer. We have seen the dyes. Actually, the dyes were all formed or designed like that. Then Otto Walls. You can see the sequences. It is almost coming after 5 years. Then Wilstetter, the Otto in the other one. This Fischer and this Paul Carrer, with whom Professor Mrs. Hoshimachalaji, my master, worked with Paul Carrer in Switzerland. The area was the series of vitamins. He was a pioneer in discovering the vitamins and the fundamentals of vitamins by Paul Carrer in Zurich University in Switzerland. And then Richard Koch and so on. Then Luciska, Mrs. Salit also worked with Luciska as well. So then polymer chemistry. That this is a polymer chemistry nowadays. We'll almost use a many polymers. See, the polymer chemistry Nobel Prize came 1953. That is after more than 50 years, because the polymer science was not so much developed at that time. It gradually developed. Okay, there are only 2 such Nobel Prizes awarded till date, 53 and 63. Then it comes the general organic chemistry. That is the most important one, with which actually this is our day-to-day topic in our classes, like stereochemistry, conformation, reaction mechanism, etc., etc. So the first one was won by Barton in 1969. That is where we know that the Barton's conformation, cyclohexane, chair and boat form, the axial equatorial orientation in organic molecules. So that was the the paper was by Professor Barton in 1915 in Experientia. Experientia is a journal which is published from Germany. That was a paper in 1950 by Professor Barton, where he first introduced the concept of chair and boat conformation of cyclohexane system, and that led to Nobel Prize in 1969 finally. Then this is Consols and Vladimir Belov in 1975. Then it is Graham, Lane and Peterson in 1987. The Graham's concept is the development of the molecular recognition. That's what I was telling you earlier, that this particular shot fits in myself, but it doesn't fit you. That means one thing fits into the other, so that the Graham's idea was to explain the molecular recognition, that how one molecule can recognize another. Okay, that this has got a very, very deep insight, because when you walk along the street, রাস্তাতে যখন যাচ্ছি একটা চেনা লোক দেখলে আমরা কথা বলি, তাই তো? কিন্তু একটা অচেনা লোক এলে কথা বললে আমরা নর্মালি বলি না। This is a kind of a recognition, and how does it work? যে আমি একটা লোককে চিনতে পাচ্ছি, একটাকে পাচ্ছি না, তাহলে তার actually chemical simulation and chemical reasoningটা কি? That's what is called in terms of molecule as a molecular recognition. For example, if I make something like a cylindrical shaped substance, it has got a diameter, so I cannot put this thing here because this is big and it does not recognize. But for example, I can put this small one maybe into this size because this size fits. That means if you think this is one molecule and if you think this is another molecule, these two molecules recognize each other. So that is a kind of what is called molecular recognition. So if I call this as a guest and if I call this as a host, so it is like a guest-host, host-guest interaction like this right here. So that led to actually the term, this very simple analogy I put you, but the reason is that getting chemistry into shape means that our recognition system was there. The last one, that is the mostly troubled Nobel Prize, that is methodologies. That is synthetic organic chemistry, the synthesis, that is the methodologies. We read, say, synthesis of ammonia by Haber synthesis of ammonia in inorganic chemistry, and say nitric acid synthesis by Ostwald and other and so on. We have read it from our school days. Clear? So organic synthesis got a something different way. So first organic synthesis, if you know, that was the first organic synthesis was given by Frederick Wohler in 1818, 1818 সালে, ঠিক আছে? ঠিক আছে, বুঝতে পেরেছো? When then 1918. Then actually it was he first synthesized urea from ammonium cyanide by heating. তার আগে organic chemistry একটা ছিল, everybody used to say it used to come from vital force theory. But something living force, unknown forces, that was Berzelius, Lavoisier and other concepts. He first broke that thing, but the idea is that nobody wanted to accept, because they said, well, ammonium cyanide, it is derived from ammonia, ammonia comes from urea, so and so on, so it is it is an extraction of the animal and human beings, it comes from urine, etc., etc. So there is a living vital forces there. So Wohler's theory was not accepted at that time. It was actually 1945 when first Kolbe synthesized acetic acid by electrolysis. That was done from carbon disulfide, and carbon disulfide was purely an inorganic compound. This has no trace with any organic origin. So that is why the organic synthesis got the footings from there, that it does not connected with anything what we call as a vital force theory or something like that. মানে অদৃশ্য শক্তি এর মধ্যে কিছু নেই। আগে যেটা মনে হতো অর্গানিক কেমিস্ট্রি একটা অদৃশ্য শক্তি, অদৃশ্য কিছু হাত এর পেছনে রয়েছে, সেইটা দিয়ে অর্গানিক কম্পাউন্ড তো রয়েছে, আসলে ব্যাপারটা সেরকম কিছু নয়। মানে এটা লোকেদের মনে একটা ধারণাই ছিল, কারণ ইনঅর্গানিক কেমিস্ট্রি আর ভেরি ডমিনেন্ট at that time, because Berzelius was such a person, and Lavoisier and Berzelius at that time in 17th and 18th century, the thing was that যদি কেউ একটা পেপার পাবলিশ করতে চান, সেটাকে Berzelius বা Lavoisier তারও আগে এবং Berzelius তারপরে তাদের কাছে দিতে হতো। তারা সেটা দেখে যদি মনে করতেন যে এই পেপারটা উপযুক্ত ছাপার, তখন তাকে বলতো তুমি এটা এই জার্নালে পাঠাও। So that was their dominance, you know. And do you know that who broke this thing first? And that led to another Nobel Prize, that is a posthumous Nobel Prize award. জানো কে করেছিল? ডিসকভার অফ অক্সিজেন। অক্সিজেনকে ডিসকভার করেছিল, ক্যান ইউ টেল মি? প্রিসলি। ঠিক আছে, when Priestley discovered oxygen, Priestley কিন্তু he never sent his paper to Berzelius for review, but he sent to the editor of the Angewandte-Chemie, clear, directly. And editor of this Angewandte-Chemie, when he went to that paper, উনি নিজে পার্সোনালি গিয়ে প্রিসলির কাছে গিয়ে বলেছিলেন, তোমার এই পেপারটা পেয়েছি আমি, মানে I shall publish, and if you do something of this type, please give it to me. So that was the first publication by Priestley, discovery of oxygen, which did not take the notice, I mean, acceptance of Berzelius, you understand? And Priestley actually got the Nobel Prize. That was a posthumous award. Priestley died at many years ago. Probably oxygen was discovered in 1874 or 1875 or 1876, if I'm not very much mistaken. So that, I tell you, so that is the thing. This organic synthesis gradually came into picture, and the first organic synthesis was, that is reported, that was a Grignard reaction. It was in 1912. You read it in every day, right? Class স্যারেরা ম্যাডামরা পড়া জিজ্ঞেস করেন, কোশ্চেনে দেন। The first organic reaction that was discovered in 1912. Then you can see this is a Robinson synthesis that we'll read in our postgraduate classes. I do not know whether it is undergraduate courses or not. The Robinson annihilation synthesis. Okay, it is 1947. Then it is a famous Diels-Alder reaction, That is in 1950 that was developed. See, the sequences of Nobel Prizes, such reactions are so fundamental and contributing. Then it was Robert Burns Woodward, the best organic synthetic chemist born so far. Because when the Nobel Prize, you know, যখন Nobel Prize একটা করে citation দেয়া হয়, কিসের জন্য দেয়া হয়েছিল? Woodwardের কোনো citation Nobel Committee করতে পারেননি, মানে on which the Woodward will be awarded Nobel Prize, whether for his vitamin B12 synthesis or whether his synthesis for say colchicine and other many things were, they're all methodology. So actually Woodwardের citationটা হয়েছিল Nobel Committee দিয়েছিল, it was an art in organic synthesis. Art. অর্থাৎ নোবেল কমিটি বলেছিল তোমার সিনথেসিসটা হচ্ছে একটা শিল্প, just it is a humanities thing, something like that. It is an art, it is not chemistry, not science, it is art in organic synthesis. So that is a special citation for Woodward that was given by the Nobel Committee. Then we come to the famous reaction of the Wittig reaction, that got Nobel Prize in 1979. Medifil's peptide synthesis or protein synthesis, the coding synthesis, then 2001 Sharpless epoxidation and all those things. See, 1901 is Nobel Prize, 1902 Emil Fischer, second the cycle comes after 100 years, it is again a Nobel Prize in chemistry by Sharpless. And then it was Schoch's catalyst. I have looked up to 2010 because afterwards, from up to 2010 to 17, there is not a Nobel Prize for methodologies in organic chemistry. That was given something the organic chemistry Nobel Prize were awarded mainly in the biological sciences. That is something different one in the one as I am saying now. So these are something like a brief history that how the science of organic chemistry has developed, which we read today. And in the remaining time, I'll try to give you some of the glimpses that you'll be rather surprised to see that the Wittig reaction, how it has been modified, I tell you. Then another reaction which has been gradually, it has got a Nobel Prize, it has been revisited and revised, and that led to another Nobel Prize. That is very interesting aspect, that once a reaction is done, got a Nobel Prize, a Nobel reaction we say, but the further modification in modern days, how it can lead to another Nobel Prize. Clear? So we'll see, for example, in a Grignard reaction, I'll show you one example where a Grignard reaction reagent is doing something else, but Grignard got a Nobel Prize for his work on a defined aspect, but that led to a Nobel Prize, for example, in 2010, the same thing, but done in a different way. So that led to another Nobel reaction. Anyway, so if we come to the first one, this is a classical Grignard reaction that was in Nobel in 1912. This is a classical mechanistic pathway which is shown. It is usually believed that magnesium transfers one electron to the alkyl halide to generate a radical anion and a radical cation, which splits into as a radical and X minus. This is one of the mechanisms that is most popularly accepted. This is actually again a type of a reaction. This is called SRN1 reaction. আমরা SN1 reaction পড়েছি, SN1 reaction এ কি RX dissociate করছে as R plus X minus. SRN reaction হচ্ছে একটা নিউক্লিওফাইল একটা বা কিছু একটা ইলেকট্রন দিচ্ছে, এটা র্যাডিক্যাল আনায়ন হচ্ছে, দ্যাট ইজ স্প্লিটিং ইনটু as R radical and X minus. ঠিক আছে, তাহলে এইখানে ফার্স্ট স্টেপ ইজ a type of SRN1 reaction, substitution radical nucleophile. In this case it is not a substitution. Then it combines by the cycle, ultimately get to RMGX, that is a Grignard reagent. So the formation of Grignard reagent is very important and interesting, that how RX and NG come to RMGX. And then actually the mechanistic cycle of this Grignard reaction involves a cyclic 6-membered chelate that involves, it is shown here, this is actually the activated complex which is formed here that leads to finally this product. So the Grignard reaction has got limitation, readily react with alkyl halide via SN2 mechanism. For example, they can lead to some inversion reaction. So this was actually the idea that Grignard reaction was developed. This is an application of the Grignard reagent. This is RMGX, reacting with variety of carbonyl compound, starting from aldehyde, ketone, ester, amide, and so on. So this is such a versatile reaction that Grignard reaction, when it was discovered and got the Nobel Prize, it has got huge application till date. When it comes to Grignard reaction can act as an electrophile. So this is the other example. For example, that this RNGX reacting with R prime Y in the presence of copper was leading to RR prime. That is a linear reaction, but that has led to Nobel Prize. For example, a sonogacid coupling or a Higgs coupling reaction. That led to Nobel Prize. Okay, so this is another substitution reaction and so on. So this is briefly that I tell you the application of Grignard reagents, that why such reaction was considered for Nobel Prize, and then it has got so many days. And now further mechanistic changes proposal is there. This was in 1981. That is again a revised mechanism for Grignard reaction was given. That reaction passes through a solvent case. That is, initially I had shown you how a Grignard reaction reagent is from RNGX, and the mechanism was a 6-member cyclic transition state. Now it is changed or proposed in the Journal of American Chemical Society JACS publication through a solvent cage. This is an example of an abnormal type of Grignard reagent that reacts with the ketone, makes a complex. Sorry, there is a carbon magnesium bond. Sorry, there is a carbon magnesium bond is there. I missed it. So it actually leads to an alkene rather than people expected this will give you this one. This is something because explainable only if we think of a radical anion mechanism, not a cation and anion. If I think R plus and MgX minus, we cannot explain this product. So Grignard reaction always operates through a radical anion mechanism pathway. Okay. So next we come to the Diels-Alder reaction. This led to, well, I just took a few. In Nobel reaction in 1950, the classical reaction is a diene, reacting with a dienophile, etc. This will be product what we get it like this way. Just a schematic approach. This led to again the Diels-Alder reaction, or the collectively they are called as a pericyclic reaction. Pericyclic reaction called cyclotron reaction. Then your electrocyclic reaction, sigmatropic rearrangement. Actually, at one time when this Diels-Alder reaction was discovered or read earlier, or other reactions, nobody knew the so-called mechanism of the organic reactions. So-called mechanism means the arrows again. Nobody knew it. So people at that time, the Claisen rearrangement, for example, we have read it, an allyl ether when you heat it to get a Claisen rearrangement. So nobody knew, but the thing is that then people used to call them, these reactions, as no mechanism reaction. That means I have got a mechanism for SN1, SN2, I have got a mechanism for pinnacle rearrangement, but I do not have a mechanism for this reaction, where I cannot put any arrows or something like that. So they used to call as a no mechanism reaction. So the original idea of this thing again was worked out by Woodward and Hoffman. Okay, Woodward was then in Harvard University. He was a professor of organic chemistry, and Hoffman was a physicist. Then he was also working Harvard. So Woodward and Hoffman decided to solve these problems. And they worked out simply entirely mathematically and entirely in paper works and explained all these things that led to famous Woodward-Hoffman theory. And Hoffman got the Nobel Prize in 1981 for this work, as for development of Woodward-Hoffman theory of pericyclic reactions, which is based on entirely the frontier orbital concept, symmetry concept. Anyway, so that was first the idea how we could see. So this is actually the thing is that this is interesting is that if you take a two olefin system, you get a cyclobutane system. If you take a diene and dienophile, you get 6-member ring. This is a ozonolysis reaction which you read in our school days, that an alkene first reacts with ozone and we get an ozonide, then molozonide and splits up. So the first step, these first steps are all pericyclic reactions or cyclotron reaction. So Woodward-Hoffman theory is that if the total number of electrons are polar, for example, you have got the 2 pi electrons here, you have got 2 pi electrons here. So if I call this as M1, if I call this as M2, then M1 and M2 has got total 4 electrons. If we take R as a value of 1. So if it is a polar electron system, this reaction will only be possible under photochemical conditions. It cannot be under thermal conditions. The Woodward-Hoffman rule. and that leads to the lone branch. Again, this is Uluberia rule. If you have 4q plus 2 electron, if you think value of q is equal to 1, then the total electron is 6. Here you can see 4 electron, you have 2 electrons. Total 6. We get this product. The reaction will be done under thermal condition. Now the point has to understand what is the difference between thermal and photochemical condition. What is the difference? The thermal reaction means any reaction you perform, whether if you perform at as well as a low temperature of say minus 197 degrees centigrade, the liquid nitrogen temperature, to up to say ice bath temperature 0 degree or minus 51, dry ice temperature minus 78, room temperature 50 degree, 100 degree, 200, 300, 400 degree, whatever it may be. These are all thermal reactions. Then what is the difference between thermal and photochemical reaction? Thermal reaction means a reaction which we perform where there will be no electron transition from a bonding field of bonding energy level to an anti-bonding energy level. That means I make a reaction where this is my field electron energy level, say 1, 2, 3 stages are there. The reaction will be occupied, will be all done without any promotion of electron to an excited state. That is, everything is a ground state reaction, that is within the bonding energy level. But when you perform a photochemical reaction, then you will have to excite, at least place 1 electron from a lower energy level to higher energy level. So that all reaction in excited states are called photochemical reaction. So that is the basic difference. One is a ground state reaction, one is an excited state reaction. For example, suppose we know that these concepts are very important in the sense we know that in aromatic substitution reaction, if we take phenol, say OH group, if we take aniline, NH2, we call them as an ortho-para orienting group. Right? Ortho and para orientation, phenol and ortho, nitrophenol, para-nitrophenol. ঠিক আছে? কিন্তু আমি যদি মনে করো নাইট্রোবেনজিন নিই, তাহলে নাইট্রো গ্রুপটাকে কি বলবো? মেটা ওরিয়েন্টিং গ্রুপ। ঠিক আছে? এইবারে ধরো আমার খাতায় লিখতে দেওয়া হলো নাইট্রোবেনজিনে নাইট্রেশন করে কি লেখা হবে? আমি যদি মেটা ডাইনাইট্রোবেনজিন লিখি তবেই ফুল মার্কস পাবো। ঠিক আছে? কিন্তু কোনো জিনিস যদি অর্থ বা প্যারা ডাইনাইট্রোবেনজিন লেখে, he or she gets a big 0. ঠিক আছে? But the question is that, have I mentioned the parameter of the reaction? কি কন্ডিশনে রিঅ্যাকশনটা হচ্ছে? আমি রিঅ্যাকশনটা যদি থার্মাল কন্ডিশনে যদি করি, তাহলে রিঅ্যাকশনটা তখন নাইট্রো গ্রুপটা হয়ে যাচ্ছে মেটা ওরিয়েন্টিং, ফিনল বা অ্যামিন গ্রুপটা হয়ে যাচ্ছে অর্থো প্যারা ওরিয়েন্টিং। But for example, if I do the same nitration reaction or electrophilic substitution of phenol or nitrobenzene in the presence of a UV light, that is an excitation reaction করছি, তখন this group will be again reverse, that is a nitro group will be ortho para orienting. বুঝেছো? আর ফিনল বা NH2 গ্রুপ গুলো তখন হয়ে যাবে কি, তারা মেটা ওরিয়েন্টিং হয়ে গেল। সুতরাং আমি যেটাকে অর্থো প্যারা বা মেটা ওরিয়েন্টিং বলছি, আমি বলছি না which frame of reference আমি বলছি, আমার রিঅ্যাকশন কন্ডিশনটা কি বলছি, আমি ধরেই নিচ্ছি OH গ্রুপটা আমার অর্থো প্যারা আর আমার নাইট্রো বা সায়ানাইড থাকলে মেটা ওরিয়েন্টিং। আমি অ্যাসিউম করছি যে রিঅ্যাকশনটা হচ্ছে আমার গ্রাউন্ড স্টেটেই হচ্ছে, অর্থাৎ এখানে কোনো ইলেকট্রন একটা লোয়ার এনার্জি থেকে হায়ার এনার্জিতে ট্রানজিশন করছে। দিস ইজ বাই প্রিসাপোজড কন্ডিশন। আমি এটা মুখে ছাত্রদের বলছি বা খাতায় লিখি, বাট ইট ইজ প্রিসাপোজড। সো দ্যাট দ্য থিং ইজ দ্যাট হোয়াট উই সি এ থার্মাল রিঅ্যাকশন যখন যেটা দেখছি, সেটা যদি ফটোকেমিক্যাল রিঅ্যাকশন করা যায়, তার কমপ্লিমেন্টারি প্রোডাক্টটা পাবো, ঠিক তার কমপ্লিমেন্টারি প্রোডাক্ট, যেটা থার্মাল পাবো তার ফটোকেমিক্যাল। So this is the thing is that if you can only do is this under thermal condition, but you will never see any Diels-Walder reaction so far discovered or written where a Diels-Walder reaction has been done under a photochemical condition.
Sir, it is first point just.
Watch it together. Where a Diels-Walder reaction has been done under a photochemical condition. So this is the Woodward-Upman rule. So again, this is your application. This is the different ways we draw the transition states and how these things are going on. Anyway, so next it is again NOxO orientation, because if we take these two components, the product can be this or can be this. This is called NO, this is called XO. This product is always obtained rebounded quantity because of the secondary orbital interaction as shown here by the green lines. So this is a very often question set in Calcutta University and other universities. NO-XO ratio. The endo product is always predominant because of a secondary orbital interaction, means that the two substrates are packed in such a way Again, you will have to understand that these two compounds have to come in such a way, parallel to each other, they get the proper distance for a secondary orbital interaction, otherwise it will not work. If it is something like this will not work. So that this reaction is actually an entropically assisted reaction. It is a highly ordered transition state. These two are highly ordered transition state. If you break it something like way, the transition state geometry changes actually, and disordering comes. So this is a very highly ordered transition state where entropy is minimized, and then we get the product actually. Okay, so that this is the thing. Now, this is the inverse electron demand. You can skip it. That is a diagram profile, and this is the novel reaction in 1979 by the Wittig. That is a classical again example of mechanism of Wittig reaction. Then this is a mechanism of Wittig reaction. This is all given in textbooks, and you can see it. Okay, there is nothing new to do it. Then it comes the modification as a Wittig-Horner reaction. The problem, essential problem in the Wittig reaction, if we go back, is finally in Wittig reaction, if we use triphenyl phosphate, the end product is that is a triphenyl phosphine oxide, which is very, very difficult to remove from the products. It's always get associated to get a pure product. So the first modification of the Wittig reaction was came by the Wittig-Horner reaction, where instead of triphenyl phosphine oxide, they use some triphenyl phosphite. This triphenyl phosphite is actually, after the reaction, this is a water-soluble compound. So after the reaction is over, you can wash the reaction product by water so that the inorganic component goes out and you can very cleanly get the organic part. So that is the modification. You can see the expulsion is a triphenyl phosphate as a lithium salt. It is minus going out, so you can get a very clean E-selective product. So that was the first modification of the Wittig reaction by Wittig-Horner or Watts modification. Then actually this was a Schlosser's modification, which I told that Schlosser used what he called this as a super base. Super base means that is the potassium tertiary butoxide and with tertiary butanol. This was a super base that was generated by Schlosser. He prepared this thing, which he used to call a lick called LiC-KOL. Li means lithium, KOL is the potassium tertiary butoxide, so that the tertiary butanol, this is the Schlosser super base that is generated to get the Wittig reaction. Okay. Next to come, the Nobel reaction is about the Hick reaction in 2010, where I told you that this is, you can see, you can see the coupling reaction between these two ends, which I indicated in the case of Wittig reaction. Clear? That RMGX and RY in the presence of copper salt that led to RR. Clear? Should I call it back again? That is in the case of Wittig reaction, not Wittig, sorry. This one, RMGX reacting with RY with the copper salt leading to RR dash. This is originally that Wigner got the Nobel Prize in 1912, but the whole work was again revisited and led to Nobel Prize again. The work that I am telling you, that is this one, the Heck reaction in 2010. Only the difference is that you can see instead of copper, there is a palladium 0 which is used in this case. So what we get, the desired objective is that this is, you can see, this is a double bond sp2 carbon. What is the product? One hydrogen is replaced by one R group, R1 group. We can replace a hydrogen, for example, in SN1 or SN2 reaction, if the carbon is sp3 hybridized, saturated carbon. But it is very difficult to replace a hydrogen on a carbon which is sp3 hybridized. Here, we can do a replacement of hydrogen for an acetylene system, where sp hybridized because hydrogen is acetylene. You can generate an acetylene diamond with an electron. But the essential problem was that how to replace a hydrogen for an sp2 carbon. That was done by the Heck reaction with palladium 0 as the catalyst. And this Nobel Prize in 2010 by Heck, Suzuki and the other person, Heck, Suzuki and not Sonogasira, and Negesi 2000, Heck, Suzuki, I'll just remember here. This was the citation was the palladium cross coupling reaction. because all these used to work with palladium. All these cross-coupling reaction. This is one substance, this is another, they became cross-coupling in the presence of palladium 0 and the base. So these are the two examples, okay. That previously, for example, in styrene. Styrene যদি আমি তৈরি করতে চাই, normally লোকে আগে কি করতো? ধরো বেঞ্জোফিনল নিতো বা বিটাতে নিয়ে তাকে একটা ভিটিক রিঅ্যাকশন করে ডবল বন্ড করতে হবে, etc., etc. Now this is a modification of this ভিটিক reaction. Simply take it iodobenzene and then alkene, ঠিক আছে? Styrene and palladium acid, you get this statement. ঠিক আছে, হয়ে গেল। আচ্ছা, এইবারে now how the mechanism works? This is actually palladium 0 is generated from palladium salts, some say palladium chloride, and if you add some ligand to it like triphenyl phosphonol, palladium is converted to 0. Palladium tetracris is 0. So that it is a palladium is connected to the here to the 0. There is a substrate enters in the cycle. So palladium 0 is converted to, this is called an oxidative addition to the palladium. Oxidative addition means the palladium's oxidation state will change from 0 to 1 in this case. So in this case, the palladium 0 to 2 is an oxidative addition. Then this ester comes, it makes through its pi bond a pi complex with the palladium. Through its pi complex, just to in case of Friedrichs reaction also, pi complex. Then it makes a carbon palladium bond. There is a carbon palladium bond. So this is called an insertion reaction. First it's oxidative addition, pi complex insertion reaction. Then this is a further transfer of hydrogen, and the product is expelled, and now the palladium is like this way. Clear? So this is an oxidative addition, and see, this is now a reductive elimination. Then the H value is lost, and it comes to palladium 0 cycle. So that this is the cycle. It is a catalytic cycle, only it's about 5 mole percent, 10 mole percent, or something like that of palladium you add, and it is the catalyst is auto-generated. It's an auto-catalytic reaction which goes from one cycle to another. So this was the head reaction. Then this is a photochemical head reaction. In the presence of light, this reaction was done. Then this is Suzuki, that I forgot. Suzuki. This is actually using a boronic acid in the presence of palladium. The same story of coupling reaction. This is again the mechanism of Suzuki coupling, where the same cycle it goes on. Again palladium 0, oxidative addition, then tertiary hydroxide, and so on. Clear? The same cycle goes on. Okay. Then it is a solo-acid coupling reaction, but unfortunately this did not get the Nobel Prize. This work was the first work in palladium cross-coupling reaction. It was a paper in 1974 in Tetrahedron Letters. First, solo-acid reported the coupling reaction in the presence of palladium. Afterwards, this Hayek and all those things. Hayek was almost same time, 72. Suzuki and all those things came later on. Unfortunately, this gentleman did not have the Nobel Prize. But this was again, you can see that this is very interesting to see. An acetylene carbon is minus. If I take the hydrogen, clear? This is an sp2 carbon. Then you will take. So sonogacid reaction is coupling with an sp2 and sp carbon. Sorry. So sonogacid reaction is a reaction with an sp carbon and sp2 carbon, a direct coupling, which was really unknown when organic chemistry in 1900 were discovered. So whether Grignard reaction, Wittig reaction, and so on. Even at the time of Woodward, it was not known that you can attach this, you can attach two sp2 carbon. Clear? So this is a one-step reaction in the presence of copper. It is going to beautiful, excellent products. You can see the examples are here given. So that led to another, so that it is a system where you can have a double bond. You can have a triple bond ion. In ion system, so this substance is a set for a dying system for a Diels-Alder reaction. So for example, one can use this for a Diels-Alder reaction or other, because the dying component is there with an extra double bond and so on. But the next we come, this is again the mechanism of sonogacid coupling reaction that goes like this way in a cycle. Again, always the story is the palladium 0 will have to come. That is the triphenyl phosphine 2, palladium 0. RH comes, oxidative addition, then this elimination of this thing, finally the product is here. So these are some of the very good reactions. And in the how much time I can wait for? Now, I do not know afterwards, as you told me to say some of the works in this, maybe I am telling you some of the works which I have done in recent times. This I did not wanted to project, but actually Rina told me, sir, you can say something of the recent works which my other thing. So I just wanted a glimpse of that thing. Okay. So this is again actually a transparency which I placed before you. And this is something like some celebrated organic reactions, what we know. This is, for example, a Hans pyridine synthesis. This was discovered by Arthur C. Hans in 1887 or 84. The Hans pyridine synthesis, you will see. It is in your syllabus, textbook, FINAR, everything else. Novelated condensation we have read. Friedland's reaction, Wittig reaction, sonography, and so on. So these are very celebrated reactions, and what I have told you so far, you must have seen that all reactions I have described were under a thermal condition. That is, you a palladium substrate, use some heat, use some copper catalyst, everything. Now what will happen, excepting one example of Hegg coupling in a palladium photochemical reaction. So what will happen that if we do this, try to do this reaction in the presence of some light, and more preferably in the presence of visible light, because that is a real ideal green condition which Mother Nature always prefers, the water and the sunlight. Okay, so in this case the visible light. Okay, so I thought that we should do some work. So it is very interesting to see, if you observe, that the first organic photochemical reaction was discovered in 1900. That is actually a reaction. This is called a pinnacle. A ketone giving to a pinnacle. This is called a photopinnacle reaction. আমরা pinnacle reaction laboratory কি করি, একটা কিটোন নিই, তাতে ম্যাগনেসিয়াম দেওয়া হয়, দিয়ে পিনাকল তৈরি করা হয়। কিন্তু তার আগে 1900 সালে প্রথম এই ফার্স্ট ফটোপিনাকল রিঅ্যাকশন ডিসকভার্ড হয়েছিল। And if you see, for example, after 1900, the photochemistry was totally neglected or not looked down upon in the realm of organic chemistry. So first example came in 63 by the photo-Fries rearrangement. Fries rearrangement or Fries rearrangement you have read. And phenolic ester, aluminum chloride, you heat it, you get a ketone, phenolic ketone, Fries rearrangement. Then photo rearrangement, this came in 63-64. Barton photochemical calculation in 1968. This is enamide cyclase in 73. The photofluid reaction, tetrahedron 1989. Although I showed this was first done from my group in 1989 when you are not there. That is the first documented evidence of photofluid reaction. Then the photophytic reaction and so on. So this is a kind of a list what we have seen from 1901 up to 2011 or 12, something like that have been. That how this photochemistry came into the picture. But remember, these reactions are all in excited states, not in the ground state. Electron is promoted from lower energy level to higher energy level always. So the pathway is entirely different. So first example of a photochemical Wittig reaction was discovered. Wittig reaction, after getting the Nobel Prize in 1979, the first example of photochemical Wittig reaction was done in 1992 by a Japanese group of workers known as Tomioka. This was done in the presence of UV light. But unfortunately, this worked for simple ketone. But it did not work for a cyclic ketone. That if you take a cyclic ketone, the compound breaks up. So there are the two examples that are given there. So it did not get much attention afterwards. That if you take a cyclic ketone, it doesn't work. But if you make a normal Wittig reaction with a cyclic ketone, that will work. So this was an example. Then we undertook this problem. So this was work done by one of my students, Dr. Jhontu Dash, and we tried to take up this problem for an intramolecular Wittig reaction that can lead to some synthesis of natural products like furans and others. So this was the standard way of identification of the compound. The first step is that we did it in the presence of visible light. The base was used as a triethylamine instead of giving any other base, which is very benign. So different examples are given here. And we are rather surprised to find that this actually has a very high percentage of yield compared to this one. So that this is definitely a different way the reaction was going on. So we applied this particular reaction for the synthesis of the diacetate of this natural product. That these starting materials are all prepared in the laboratory. That we will have to make the corresponding bromo compound, then the bleed, and then the final product. Okay. So these are the blocks in the class 5 or 6 level. Now the thing is that what would be the mechanism of this one? That was very interesting, and we studied it from a different angle. What you can see that you know that amines, what I have just told you, that if you take an amine, aniline also, what you know it is an orthogonal group. But if you potentiate it, it becomes a orthogonal group. So I will talk because the nitrogen bone here in the polyphenolic state is promoted from one state lower to higher group. So that amine, what we normally know, amine is a base. But if you ask me, what will be the whether amine will be a base in excited state? No, it will be acidic because one electron is promoted. So that it will be an NH2 dot plus. Means hydrogen will leave as an H plus. So the properties will change. Aniline is a base, but aniline becomes an acid in an excited state. For example, phenol is an acid in the ground state, normal. But if we excite phenol, it will become more acidic because it is OH dot plus, so hydrogen H plus will lose faster more. So these are the properties always changes if compared to thermal and photochemical reaction. So that is. The mechanism is that here the electron is transferred from triethylamine. It is produced at a dot plus. This is substrate transfer to this phosphorus plus. And this you must be knowing that this is a unique system in phosphorus. Phosphorus has the property of generating 7 electron 9 electron system. For 7 electron we call it is a phosphino radical. For 9 electron it is phosphoryl radical, which is a very unstable state of phosphorus. So this is actually a phosphoryl radical where phosphorus is centered around 9 electrons. It is object is complete here. By accepting 1 electron, this is a phosphoryl radical which contains 9 electrons. So that this is very unstable and immediately couples with this one. And then this is, since in phosphorus nitrogen bond is very weak, phosphorus oxygen bond is very strong. That is why the breeding reaction is successful. But breeding reaction never occurs with phosphorus nitrogen bond. Because it always breaks. Phosphorus and nitrogen bonds are very weak bonds for the reasons you know. I do not want to elaborate. So that it immediately splits up and it generates this region. Immediately this ring is formed and then it undergoes the further reaction will come to this product. So this is a new mechanistic way the whole thing was done, and the reference comment was excellent on this part. That anyway, this paper I do not want to say that paper is published finally. Then the second thing will come, whether we apply to synthesize this compound in the case of flavors. That we took simply the changes of procedures and the same thing, mechanistically we got the flavors. This results all these given here. Then we can see this is a piece of flavons, pyroflavons which is formed. There are these flavons. Following the same procedures, I do not want to elaborate it further. Having been an infrastructure, I have talked much of this thing. Just I'm showing you the applications. And then, this is again the same mechanistic pathway, phosphoryl radical and so on, etc. And then, what you can see, this is a non-linear condensation. This is a classical non-linear condensation in the presence of an active methylene compound, like ethyl acetate or diamine, or say malonic acid. With the base we get a non-linear condensation product. The Doebner modification is adding pyridine and picoline to this. So this was again an application of this visible light induced reaction of non-linear condensation. You don't have to use any base. For example, in a non-linear reaction, you have to use a base like pyridine or picoline or others. But if you do it simply with a visible light, simply in aqueous alcohol, this is an excellent product to the tune of 80 to 90% tilt. And the time is only 5 minutes, 7 minutes, 10 minutes. So these are the different substrates. Then this is the synthesis of two-body derivative using this procedure. No further illustration. This is the Solow-Basile reaction that I told you that we did in a couple of years or 5 years, 2012. That is again Solow-Basile reaction in the presence of light. It was not reported earlier. Our group actually myself did it. My students, again the examples are given. This is a standardization procedure that triphenyl phosphine, mole percent, 20 mole percent, time of 25 minutes, it is given here. So these are the standardization, that optimization of reaction condition, how we can optimize. Then it comes this table, for example, you can see like it's here, different substrates. Then this is again a mechanism pathway that palladium in the presence of triphenyl phosphine is converted to palladium 0, which in the presence of light produces this dimer as palladium 1 I hold 2. This remains in equilibrium. This takes this transverse electron, hydrogen is lost, so this radical is formed from here. This radical comes and then the entire solar vascular reaction pathway goes up and finally gets to this product. So this is one such one. This is again dihydropyridine synthesis, that is the Hunch pyridine synthesis. This is simply done in the presence of light and visible light. You take, if you go to the Finner's book, it's an aldehyde ester ammonia and the base is given and you just use a visible light, it is 5 to 10 minutes integration. The substrates are shown here. Again, this is a new mechanism which has been again adopted and published, that here again, and one electron transfer occurs from ammonia, nitrogen to this carbonyl group. Carbonyl is a good acceptor of electrons, the carbon center. So this generates a radical and this is a radical cation, which leads to this again complexation with this radical center with the transfer of hydrogen to O-. It eliminates an water so that we have an amino ester. And finally the sequence goes on. That means the mechanism, if you go to the Hunch pyridine synthesis mechanism, in textbook you will see the nitrogen is coming at the last point. First the two units add up, the 5 carbon atoms are produced and then the nitrogen comes at the last stage. If you go to Finner's mechanism, books will be here. But in this case, which is a nitrogen end which is present first here, making the two groups join, and then it comes through this aldehyde enters in the picture. So it is either by this way. This is, you can see, this is a Diels-Solder reaction. This part is a dimer. This part is a dienophile. So that it is an other Diels-Solder reaction with cyclizase to give you this one, or through a cyclization reaction over to this one. So this is a new mechanism, or what I want to say, the new ways of mechanism and placing the organic reaction nowadays, what we see, that which is entirely different from textbook. Then this pyridine aromatization, you know that dihydropyridine is normally aromatized by nitric acid. This is given in Finner's book, which leads to problem. It is simply by using cupric bromide, you can make it. So these are the examples. These are different cases. Ideal condition is this 93% conversion is a mass. This is the plausible mechanism. This is another again isoxazole. All these are applications of this compound, this paper, or the other one. For your information, this has been cited in Scopus and ETA. The industrial citation is 5 to 7%. This particular methodology and the previous pyridine one, all over the globe. That is, there's a pie chart which is actually published. Same to me. That industrial citation ranges from this thing, which I think is extremely satisfied and happy to this one. That parties are deliverable. Do a research on the tabletop but be deliverable. That is the industry people have taken this thing and cited this thing. One I've walked, okay, anyway. Just as a matter of point here. So again, these are the table, I do not want to elaborate. Mechanism again same, one electron transfer mechanism, find the product. This is an X-ray structure of this compound. And this is one example in 88. What we did is the photofluorescence reaction. That means this particular group, what you can see, by photochemical reaction, this is actually rearranged to this octo product. I have written it here, but if you think it is written here, then it undergoes this ketone and this thing undergoes the ring here, then Fluorescence reaction which was given. This I do not want to elaborate. And this is the mechanism that is shown here. These are all published. And this is the last one I want to tell you, that is an auto rearrangement which you read, that if you take an anilide and treat with bromine acetic acid, this gives you parabromo acid anilide. That is an auto rearrangement. That is again a rearrangement. In this case, the interesting part that you don't use bromine or anything, HBr or something like hazardous substance, then bromosuccinimide is acting as a bromine source in the presence of visible light. This is giving you this particular product. Interestingly, if you take ethyl here, this doesn't work. Some of the examples are given here. The mechanism is shown here that this is a photovoltaic rearrangement. That is, the NPS is generated bromine. Radical this picks up this hydrogen radical is resonance stabilized, or it picks up a N-bromo derivative from here. Then this is resonance stabilized, electron is transferred to barrel position, then coupling and so on. So this is a Orton rearrangement modification which is done under neutral condition. Normally Orton rearrangement is done always in acidic condition. This is such an addition to this list, and this is my acknowledgement actually. And we acknowledge Dr. Chontulat and Dr. Purit Sheikh who worked on fluid and qualities. Indira and Shushmita worked earlier for their other works like Orton and others. Thank you, and I thank you all for your extremely kind attention. And I'm trying to place before you some of the developments which have taken for the last few years since the discoveries of these famous reactions. Thank you. I try to give you a glimpse how modern organic reactions is
Silence. Now students, you can ask a few questions. Sarah has already clarified some fundamental concepts. If you have any questions regarding the fundamentals, please, you can ask
anything you like.
Anything you like.
Don't feel. The question may be something absurd, others might laugh at you, but don't listen. You can ask. Ajay, conclusion. বলো প্রশ্নটা কি হবে লোকেরা বলবে এই আমার প্রশ্ন বলছে এরা কোনো মানে যে প্রতিটা বললি সে কি তোমার থেকে বেশি জানে না কম জানে সেটাই তো এনিথিং ইউ ক্যান আস্ক ঠিক আছে just one again example I tell you that asking a question in a class in Jadavpur University led to a publication of a paper by Professor Amreshwar Chatterjee. নাম শুনেছি when Professor Amreshwar Chatterjee was taking class in Jadavpur third year organic chemistry honors, বর্ধন সেনগুপ্ত সিনথেসিস বলে একটা সিনথেসিস সবাই পড়েছে, যেটা বিএসসি পড়েছে, তুমি পড়েছো, আমি পড়েছি, সবাই পড়েছে। বর্ধন সেনগুপ্ত সিনথেসিসটা যখন হয়েছিল 1930 সালে, 32 সালে জেসিএস এর পেপার, স্যার জেসি বর্ধন and সুরেশ সেনগুপ্ত used to work in Presidency College. জেসি বর্ধন এত উনি ছিলেন না, ভীষণ একটা উইথড্রয়িং অ্যাটিটিউড, উনি জানতেনও না যে ওনার স্টুডেন্টকে জানতেন উনি কি করছে। উনি একটা কাগজে ওই হোমিওপ্যাথিক পুরিয়ার মতো কিছু কম্পাউন্ড দিয়ে এ বলে লিখে একটা মেথড লিখে দিতেন। তারপরে স্যার সুরেশ সেনগুপ্ত used to do the work and report and then you do this thing করে আলটিমেটলি কাজটা যখন কমপ্লিট হয়েছিল তখন স্যার জেসি বর্ধন বলেছিলেন যে আচ্ছা তুমি এটা একটু ফিনান্সিনের পিকলেটের সঙ্গে মেল্টিং পয়েন্টটা মিলিয়ে দেখো তো, বা ফিনান্স কুইনোন করে অক্সিডেশন করে দেখো তো। দেন জেসি বর্ধন বলার পর সুরেশ সেনগুপ্ত জেনেছিলেন যে উনি ফিনান্সিন সিনথেসিস করেছেন when he matched, ঠিক আছে। This was a story, but the point that Professor Amreshwar Chatterjee, Amreshwar বাবুকে থার্ড ইয়ারে যাদবপুরে ওর মতো স্টুডেন্ট আমরা যাদের পড়িয়েছি ওই রকমই কোনো ছাত্র 1967 সালে না 67 সালে পেপারটা মোটামুটি ধরে নিতে পারি 65-66 এই পিরিয়ডে একজন ছাত্র খুব ইনঅকুয়াসলি একটা প্রশ্ন করেছিল, বর্ধন সেনগুপ্ত সিনথেসিস 1932 জেসিএস এর পেপার থেকে ততদিন অব্দি ফিনারের বইতে আজও লেখা আছে, সব বইতে, ফিনার, জেনিমার্স, মরিসন বই, সব বইতে বর্ধন সেনগুপ্ত সিনথেসিস ক্যান বি ডান only with potassium পটাশিয়াম দিয়ে করা যাবে কোয়েশ্চেন ছেলেটা না মেয়েটা করেছিল স্যার একটা সোডিয়াম দিয়ে কেন করা যায় ঠিক আছে দ্যাট ওয়াজ আ ভেরি ইনকুয়াস কোয়েশ্চেন জাস্ট এমনি অনেক সময় না স্যারকে একটু ভুল বা একটু বলে দেখি কি উত্তর দেন এই টাইপের স্যার সোডিয়াম দিয়ে কেন করা যায় একই গ্রুপে সোডিয়াম পটাশিয়াম কেন করা যায় না সেটা মনে হচ্ছে সে হয়তো কিছু ভেবে বলেছিল না ভেবে বলেছিল বাট দ্য থিং ইজ দ্যাট প্রফেসর চ্যাটার্জি টুক দিস কিউ যে উনি বলেছেন সত্যি তো এটা তো করা যায় না এটা তো ভেবে দেখিনি কেন তারপরে শুনি ল্যাবরেটরিতে যাদবপুরের ওই কেমিক্যাল ইঞ্জিনিয়ারিং বিল্ডিং একতলায় বসে উনি এটা করেছিলেন এবং উনি পাবলিশড পেপার যে বর্ধনজীন গ্রুপ সিনথেসিস ক্যান বি ডান বাই সোডিয়াম বুঝলেন তো সুতরাং এই যে ক্লাসরুমের কতগুলো খুব প্রশ্নগুলো ক্যান লিড টু ভেরি গুড রিসার্চ ঠিক আছে ওনলি প্রবলেমটা হয়েছিল কি যে যেটা একটু বলে দিই পটাশিয়াম আর সোডিয়ামের ডিফারেন্সটা আমি যখন একটা পটাশিয়াম সল্ট যখন করি ধরো একটা ইনলেট করছি পটাশিয়াম ইনলেট অক্সিজেন আর পটাশিয়ামে যেহেতু সোডিয়ামের নিচে অক্সিজেন পটাশিয়াম বন্ড অনেক বেশি আয়নিক থাকে কোভ্যালেন্সি ক্যারেক্টারটা কম কিন্তু আমি যদি একটা অক্সিজেন লিথিয়াম বন্ড করি সেটা কোভ্যালেন্ট ক্যারেক্টার অনেক বেশি লিথিয়াম সবাই পাবে ফলে সোডিয়াম অক্সিজেন সোডিয়াম বন্ডটা অনেক কোভ্যালেন্ট ক্যারেক্টার তার আয়নিক ক্যারেক্টার অনেক কম ফলে হচ্ছে কি যখন পটাশিয়াম আয়ন দেওয়া হচ্ছে অক্সিজেন মাইনাসটা নেগেটিভ চার্জটা ফ্রিলি অ্যাভেলেবল থাকছে পটাশিয়াম আয়নটা প্লাস আসে ফলে নেক্সট রিঅ্যাকশন হচ্ছে এবার অক্সিজেন সোডিয়াম বন্ডটা থাকার জন্য দুটো বন্ডের মধ্যে একটা কোভ্যালেন্ট ক্যারেক্টার এসে যাচ্ছে ফলে ও মাইনাসটা ফ্রিলি অ্যাভেলেবল হচ্ছে না What Professor Chatterjee did only simply modification is that in the reaction medium, the chemical reaction is done in the presence of benzene. Professor Chatterjee কি করেছিলেন তার মধ্যে একটু DMF দিয়ে দিয়েছিলেন ডাইমিথাইল ফর্মালডিহাইড এবারে ডাইমিথাইল ফর্মালডিহাইডের যদি রেজোনেটিং স্ট্রাকচার যদি দেখা যায় তাহলে ওর একটা ক্যাপিটাল 3 সেন্টার ইলেকট্রনিক চার্জ ইট ইজ এ সাবস্টেন্স which can trap cation ঠিক আছে তাহলে it trapped sodium O মাইনাস বন্ড থেকে ডাইমিথাইল ফর্মালডিহাইড সোডিয়ামটা ট্র্যাপ করে দিবে বেরিয়ে তাহলে কি কোভ্যালেন্ট বন্ড ক্যারেক্টারটা ভেঙে গেল ওটা ইলেকট্রোভ্যালেন্ট টাইপের হয়ে গেল O মাইনাস অ্যাভেলেবল বর্ধনজীন গ্রুপ সিনথেসিস আর সাকসেসফুল and Professor Chatterjee used to say সোমনাথ এবং ক্লাসে সবাই বলবেন that if you have got a good pair একটা গুড যদি কাপল থাকে তাহলে ব্রেক করতে গেলে কি করতে হবে তোমাকে একটা ডিভোর্সিং এজেন্ট দিতে হবে তাই তো তোমাদের বলতে ভুলে আছে তো সো একটা ডিভোর্সিং এজেন্ট বাইরে থেকে দিয়ে দাও বুঝলে একটা গুড পেয়ার সঙ্গে স্প্লিট আপ হয়ে গেল হ্যাঁ এন্ড ইউ ক্যান এনজয় ইওর লাইফ কি এরকম ভাবে বলতে মজা করতে না তা বলতেন এই ক্ষেত্রে ডিএমএফ হচ্ছে সেই ডিভোর্সিং এজেন্ট অক্সিজেন সোডিয়াম ইজ এ গুড পেয়ার টাইট আয়ন পেয়ার মানে কোভ্যালেন্ট মিনস দ্যাট ভেরি টাইট আয়ন পেয়ার মানে কাছাকাছি রয়েছে স্প্লিট করা যাচ্ছে না ডিএমএফটা দিলে একটা থার্ড পার্টি এসে গেল ওই টাইট আয়ন পেয়ারের মধ্যে ডিভোর্স হয়ে গেল ও চলে গেল ইঞ্জিনিয়ার এর মাইনাস খালি হয়ে গেল রিঅ্যাকশন সো হি ইউজ টু টক লাইক দিস ওয়ে জাস্ট লাইক গিভ ইউ অ্যান एग्जांपल ঠিক আছে যদি কেউ
If there is no questions, sir will be presented with a memento by.
And already you have given this thing and
This small gift, sir.
this small gift. Memento. That's a thank you.
That's a memento.
And so many mementos, but you know.